Here I am. Who am I? There we go. Okay, I think I'm up and running. So, if you looked for me yesterday, I was not around. Life intervenes. I was busy doing other things yesterday, and then my personal life took a bit of a dramatic turn, and so I wasn't even sure if I was going to do the show this morning. I've been sorting out some personal issues, but it sort of funneled me back to the same equations that I always go to, and I thought maybe I might be able to use this as inspiration to describe the structure of who we are as human beings and how all of this works, and use it to help me, sort out my own culpability, you might say, in the drama that ensued, and going forward, how I can find my alignment to my inner being in this matter and act in according to her wishes, or in according to her frequencies, such that I can get to the other side of this kerfuffle in loving peace with the entity in question. That was pretty abstract. So, who are we, and how do we get what we want? That's a good question right there. And how do we teach our children how to get what they want? Our young children, when they are small and they're throwing tantrums, they're coming into a conditional world and focusing on the conditions around them and trying to get them to go their way. How do you do that? How do you identify things that you want and then summon them to you? Well, from my perspective, I believe that the number one question at the core of all of this is you got to ask the question, who am I in all of this? And how... So who am I? And how does it work? I realize I've just kind of slopped up any old waterfall picture. I mean, I have a waterfall series that's actually quite pretty. Quite a lot of them. Here's one. This one is my it's a weird one. This one is nice. I'll just keep it here for a minute. So, I'll tell you, somebody in my life wasn't getting what they wanted. And it brings up the question, how do you get what you want? Who are you in that equation? I'm sitting here in a physical body and I want something. How do I get it to me? Well, the answer is you can't directly. That's not the way it works. What it is what you have to mind are your points of attraction. You are a point of attraction. You're actually 2 points of attraction. Your main one, your source point of attraction, and then the other one that you're tending to. If you're in alignment with your source, then you are, then the two sides of you are not disagreeing with one another, and you aren't setting up a cross current of energy. You aren't crossing your own energy stream. I'm going to tell you that in the world of law of attraction, the number one sin is do not cross your own energy stream. That's one way of putting it. I also call it getting backwards to your own self. Getting backwards to your own self. If you are focusing on something in the physical plane, that you want, that you are not getting, you find yourself in a negative state of emotion, and you are trying in that negative state of emotion to force that condition to change, I'm going to tell you right now, it's never, ever, ever going to work, because you are up against the equipment. You are up against the design of the system. And I'm going to use this whole thing as inspiration to talk about our design. And our design is this. You are actually one point of attraction. But when you cross your own energy stream, you become 2 points of attraction that are contradicting one another. And so you're messing shit up. You're causing a storm of a maelstrom of chaos in the order of what otherwise would be the ease and flow of your life. Our lives, I have a theory about this. Now, the world that I live in does not actually bear this out, in the sense that I don't live in a world where I see everybody being this idealistic way that I think that of ease and flow that I believe that we all could experience to a much higher degree than we do. We don't have to have the aristocratic class and then the slave class doing all of the labor. That may have been the case back in the olden days. But we're getting a handle on certain things, and things like automation and even AI are actually designed to assist us in all of our endeavors. So let me get back to who we are as a point of attraction. Because you are a spin. You are actually 2 spins. You are 2 minds, and each one of those minds is a spin. Now, it turns out that your physical self is 50 to 100 trillion spins involved in there too. All of your cells want to live. Every one of them is trusting you to navigate the best way possible in this larger frame that we all find ourselves in. And actually, it's sort of like fractal iterations of ourself. Because every one of ourselves as a cell has the same kind of setup that our whole self does. It has a respiratory system and a circulatory system and a regenerative system, whatever that is, reproductive system, an elimination system, all of these things that every cell is, you are too. And honestly, we are a super being as humanity. We are that too. But each one of our cells, so I am a cell in this, so, I don't want to get away from my original inspiration, which was my own pain in my own life. Somebody is mad at me. And I'm going to tell you right now that on the face of it, I would grant some validity to what this person, this entity is mad about. However, from the standpoint of I am the universe, and I no longer am going to be, I'm not going to be the exception of mother, which is I'm going to teach you how to get from me as oh, I'm live too, so I got to be careful. Who am I? Who am I? You're a point of attraction. And you can attract to your purposes literally every single thing that you want and need to whatever purposes you desire. You can do that. But the answer is not to focus on the physical and go directly at the physical thing you're trying to change. The answer is to get into alignment with your inner being. And from that position, now your 2 points of attraction become 1 point of attraction, and in its in-phase state, it is a powerful, powerful attracting force to everything that you need, everything that you want. Actually, you can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. And actually, this comes to a concept that I'm very fond of, which is the notion of alignment goes to, if you get what you need into alignment with what you want, or vice versa, get what you want into alignment with what you need, you will find that the universe will grant you everything. Everything. You can have everything that you want as long as what you want is what you need. When you're out of alignment, that's when you're wanting the things that aren't any good for you, you know? So I guess that's the mantra of my story. Every day, no matter what, your alignment with your own inner being is the answer. It is always the answer. And the impulses you get from that position and the thoughts that you get from that position. Now, people might say, well, duh, of course I want to be in alignment. Of course I want to feel good. Change those conditions around and I will feel good. Well, that's just the thing. If you are in a position where you are demanding that somebody, even somebody close enough that you think you ought to have a right to demand something of them, I don't care if they're your husband or your wife or your mother or your child, you can't demand this of any adult person. That an adult person is their own person. You can't demand, and if you're trying to do that from one person, you aren't understanding how to get it from the universe, because if you understood how to get it from the universe, you would get it from this person, or at least more than you are. I'm a little jangled. I almost didn't do the show. Actually, I did my own tape for a while, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really giving me insights into our design, how our design works, what you're allowed to demand and what you are not allowed to demand of the universe or anybody else, because of how this works. You should not be trying to extract from the universe anything that you want from the point of a negative emotion. That's one of the lessons. And so I have to be okay no matter what. Even if I don't get out of the situation what I want. I can't demand it out of anybody. It is not mine to demand. Actually, I'm a little scattered, although I still have a focus on the point of attraction thing, because we are points of attraction. And when what your physical mind is thinking about and what it's wanting and how it is focusing is in phase with how the greater self is doing it, then all of a sudden, all of your desires are reachable. Actually, what you really desire is that feeling of movement from where you are towards where you want to be. That's what you really want. That's what you're here for. That's the name of the game. It's a kind of surfing on the frequencies kind of a feel. To feel the I was thinking about that one yesterday too. As you learn to not be conditional. Don't be conditional in anything that you want. And this person demanding something of me is being very conditional about it. And while on the one hand she absolutely has a point, and I intend on making it a point to grant her a little bit more of that which she seeks, but not at the point of a gun. I will wait until the gun goes down and we can talk about all of the many amazing things that we have discovered by virtue of this little brief detour into the dark side for a second. We had a fight, although it was only over text, so everything was recorded. You can see everything, The actual fight that I had was only over text. So I have to face the same questions. Who am I and how do I get what I want? Well, the way to do it is you have to get into alignment with your two selves. Don't be disagreeing with your other self. And how do you know if you are disagreeing with your other self? Well, first of all, if you're mad, you are disagreeing with your other self. If you're even sad, you are disagreeing with your other self, because your other self is never any of those things. She's nothing in negative emotion. She is only positive emotion. So, wow, the frame that she is in is completely beyond the conditions. She is unconditional. She is unconditional, and I've got to find that place too. And so then I find that place, and I'm like, oh yeah, oh my goodness, how interesting is life? How interesting is life? This brings me to a notion that I have coined. The term is divine autonomy, and it has to do with your personal say over your spin, the spin you put on your life, how you interpret it, what you make of it, how you own it or not own it, what you put on others, whether you stand in a place and demand that other people, live up to something that you think they ought to be, whether that's even a valid position. Does anyone owe anyone anything? Well, we owe each other peace. We owe each other respect. We owe each other space. We owe each other That's a very interesting question. I'm going to go check the chat room just for a second, just to see whether anybody is watching, because if I have an audience, then that's one thing, and if I don't, then that's something else. I have one view. There you are. Hi. I'm having an interesting day because I'm using my own life to add in the equations that come up to sort out my own personal issues. And on the one hand, it's personal. On the other hand, it's not personal at all. And I realize that. It has to do, and the solving of all of our problems comes when we find our more peaceful self, the self that is okay anyway. Even if this person stays mad at me, even if I can't please them ultimately, then I've got to be okay anyway. And if I am, then from that vantage point, well, we'll see what happens. Right now, I feel someone that I love very, very much repelling me with their demands, because I believe that in this moment they are not understanding their own equipment and how to summon to themselves what it is they want out of the world. If there is something that you want, that you love very, very much, and you want more of it, you don't get mad. Anyway, so it sort of leads me to looking at our nature and design, and how it is that we summon to ourselves all the cooperative components to all of the ventures that we would have, all of the things that we want, all of the things you want to do. If I was going to start a business, it would be from a position of lack if I thought that the only people that I had that I could count on was my family, and that I had to extract from them. This is not, by the way, any kind of a reflection of my trouble, because this was not what happened. This instance comes to mind. It's the kind of thinking that I want to break us all out of. I want us all to think bigger. Summon to yourself the people that want to do the things that you need people to do those things, and summon to yourself people who want to play with you in other ways, like me, in other ways. Don't, I don't know. I want us all to think bigger. If I was going to start a business and I thought that the only people that I had at my disposal was my family, and so then they were the ones that had to man the cash register, and they had to wait the tables, and they had to cook them, whatever, and that was all that I had, then my view of the world would be a particular way. But if I realize that with the world that we live in now, the way we are connected across all kinds of broad surfaces, through the internet and social, the way that the social networks link us up physically, our physical friends and our physical, and all kinds of websites from Indeed and the kinds of websites where you can find employees, or all the different ways that you can summon to your purposes other souls and consciousnesses that are interested in doing the same kinds of things or interested in the same things that you love. If you had faith and expectation about the way the universe worked, and then applied that to all of the different platforms and possibilities, the possibilities that you have to summon cooperative components is mind-boggling. And actually, the whole thing is spinning. We are all spinning. It looks like, in a way, we're all spinning together, because on the planet level, at the planetary level, we are all spinning together. But then all the cooperative component parts are all spinning separately and sort of together. When you get yourself into alignment with your inner being, what happens is the order of things coming into your life and the order of experiences flowing to you based on what it is you want and what it is you're looking for and what it is you're trying to accomplish, they start flowing in the correct order, and then things start going smoothly. Abraham talks all the time about this path of least resistance and flowing downstream, kind of thing, the ease and flow aspect of it. If it feels hard, if you're trying to force something specific to be a specific way because you think that's what it ought to be, because you think that's what you're entitled for it to be that way, and when it's not that way, then you have a right to be mad at them for not being differently. You do have a right to be sad. Because we have a right to our feelings. Nobody can stop me from being mad or sad or depressed or happy or joyful. As a matter of fact, I have utter control over my emotions, and it turns out the control does not come from my control of conditions, because You just gotta face, you do not have control over conditions. You do not have control over others. And so you've got to, and you don't have control over the weather. This is one I've been trying to learn, because I have had a hard time. I've lived all of my life almost all of my life, in the American Southwest. 2 years of my life, when I was a teenager, we lived in Nairobi, Kenya, and so the rain and the weather was a different thing. There was rainy seasons and dry seasons, and they had drought and stuff like that over there. They were coming out of a drought, I think, when we moved there, and I don't know. What I'm saying is a lot of times I identify with the weather in the sense that when it rains, I am happy. And when it doesn't rain, I start getting not happy. And it starts being a systemic thing that I can't, it's very conditional, but I can't stop, I can't look, I have to start focusing around the dry conditions around me and my fear of fire. And I recognize that all that is perfectly sensible. It's perfectly sensible. But if I want to take my understanding of who I am all the way out to my formless core, my fundamental self, who I really, really am, at the level of the Planck, all the way to the universe, I have to be okay even if it doesn't rain, you know? Because it hasn't rained. Well, what happened was early in the season, before the leaves had fallen, we had a really heavy, wet snowstorm. Broke all the trees, you know? And so for a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, you know, there were machines all over the village, you know, clearing away trees and stuff. And we thought, fine start to a winter precipitation season. And frankly, that's the last drop of anything we've gotten. And that was back in November. And now it's January. And so, wow. And so usually my sense of well-being starts, my alignment with my inner being. See, my inner being is okay even with this. My inner being is okay no matter what. And if you find her frequency and latch onto it, then you can be more okay when conditions around your conditional life mess with you too, you know? And from that position, maybe you can figure out a way to sort it, you know? What's the right action to do from this position? Start conserving water, you know? Or, anyway, so we are 2 points of attraction, and we are talking about law of attraction. And it's because ultimately what I'm talking about, I'm literally talking about being at the center of a vortex of spin. And you have a little one that you are in charge of, and then there's a big one that we are all engaged in, that we are all spinning with, that we are all dancing with. And you can spin your own spin in a way that does not countermand or contradict or flow upstream to, or it's counter to out of phase with the larger self. You can do it in a way that is in phase with your larger self. And when you do, your energy level spikes. And so even though on the one hand I'm kind of sad about what happened yesterday, I actually have faith that it's going to work out. Because I don't think that this person that I had a fight with is capable of staying negative indefinitely. And I certainly am not. I'm already out of it. I can't stay mad. I can't stay sad. I have nothing but faith in the future, and my ability to navigate the waters in a peaceful, loving, kind, mutually supportive way for all beings concerned ultimately. And the person who's gotten themselves turned backwards, I believe, will see it and get themselves turned back forwards. And the second that they do, I will acknowledge where they were right about some things and grant a couple of wishes. That will be a demonstration of how when that person gets into alignment, how a couple of things are going to come out of her vortex right at her. Oh my gosh, I am getting what I want, and all I had to do was just start flowing downstream and quit. Let the universe the universe is an ease and a flow, and you have to do what feels right to you. You can't be a people pleaser. You can't do it for others. You have to do it for yourself. And ultimately, the answer is always alignment. And the question is always misalignment. It's funny how it turns out that way. All questions are misalignment and all answers are alignment. War is misalignment. Sixth mass extinction is misalignment. Using fossil fuels beyond the point where we didn't need to anymore on the grounds of national security, but it's basically on the grounds of we aren't conscious enough to be trusted with such a thing. Free, clean energy, unlimited supplies everywhere. What happens if you're a warlord and what you're trying to do is force those other people to blah, 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 because you don't realize how we all are the field? We got to dance in harmony with one another. You've got to allow all others to do and be, and you can't force anything. It's power versus force. It's actually, there's an interesting book from an interesting person, actually, a mixed bag, by the way. So misalignment comes in overt and subtle forms. You can have negative beliefs woven into your basically aligned structure. But when But if you don't locate that negative belief and extract it from your operating system, it is an ongoing thread of contradicted energy. You can feel the crossed energy in the person. You can feel it in yourself when you've got a negative belief woven in there somewhere. It is causing you crossed energy somewhere. If it's somewhere where you're getting mad about something, about how the world is, or you're getting sad about something, or you're frustrated, or whatever. Now, it's a good thing to have any emotion. Emotion, as a matter of fact, negative emotion is a good thing because it says that you care about something, but you still need to get it turned around. You need to get it turned around because from my academic perspective, my academic in the sense that I'm talking about this rigorously, mathematically, abstractly, when you get yourself turned backwards and you are now operating in a negative field, I see it as being turned backwards. And now as you try to act, you try to move forwards, but it's creating a sort of a negative force field instead of the positive flow because you are now going against the grain. It's like you're swimming against the current. Your little boat is piloting against the waves instead of flowing downstream with everybody. You've got your I heard Gary Zukav talking to Oprah once describe it like the mothership. Your soul, the oversoul, is like the mothership. And when you listen to its guidance and flow with it, your journey is way smoother. And when you pay no attention to it and just go wherever, then you have a rough ride. And what your mothership is your inner being. And what this going with it or against it has to do with your physical mind and your emotions. That's the concept that it has to do with. Are you paying attention to your emotions? And if you are paying attention to your emotions, but what you're translating it is, I'm paying attention to these emotions, and these emotions are, I'm really angry at you. And so that means you're doing something wrong, and you need to do something different so that I can feel better. And even if I might grant that I could do something better, I can't do anything better now, because you just made that position. And if I grant you that at the point of a gun, then instead of learning how the universe works, you learn how to manipulate your mother. So interesting. That's just a for instance. Or your spouse, or your wife, your husband, your child. You've got to learn how to extract it from the universe at large in general. And how it works is you are a vortex of attraction. You are actually two. And your physical specific self is either joining the party and amplifying this energy, or it's getting in the way and you're experiencing it as crossed energy, crossing your own energy stream, negative emotion, basically. When you cross your own energy stream, the experience is negative emotion. And just to remind ourselves what the scale of negative emotion, or what the emotional scale in general is, this is it. Runs from jealousy, hatred, revenge, anger, discouragement, blame, worry, doubt, disappointment, overwhelmment, frustration, pessimism, boredom. Now you get into the good ones. Contentment, hopefulness. This is your emotional guidance scale. But what causes this guidance scale is you are two selves, which brings me to this representation of the guidance scale that illustrates that just a little bit more. The fact that you are two spinning points of attraction. And when you get your smaller one in phase with your larger one, that's when your life goes well. Period. And each one of us has to figure out what that means to us individually. But how you know that you're in phase is it feels good. And how you know you're out of phase is that feels bad. And it's actually what we have called negative emotion. You think conditions are causing it because you're focusing on that condition is what threw you into that state of negative emotion. But what's really happening is you don't know who you are, and you don't know that you possess utter and absolute control over your emotional state without anybody being a part of the equation. Period. You can extract it, whatever you need and whatever you want, from the whole universe. It's all alive. It is filled with laughing, loving, happy, joyful, intelligent, capable people seeking employment, seeking purpose, seeking meaning, seeking connection, seeking fun. And you just got to know that. And, get out there and experience it. And don't push against some part of it that is not giving you what you want right there. Instead, identify. So all of it actually comes down to honestly, and wouldn't it comes down to the question, who am I? because what you're really doing as you walk through your life is you are trying to identify, as you walk through this physical existence, things that resonate with that frequency that you really are. Because who you are is a frequency, it's not a physical thing. This frequency that you are is so cool, it can coalesce into physicality, into a physical body. But that's not who you are. The physical body part is not who you are. Who you are is the underlying frequencies. You are joy. You are fun. You are satisfaction. You are... And as you walk through your life, instead of identifying all of the things that are not pleasing you, and being outraged by it and stamping your foot and trying to demand that it change into something else so that you can feel better, instead of doing that, if as you walk through life, every little bit, every step of the way, every moment of your time, you spend identifying aspects of the world around you that you identify with. In other words, I like that. I like that. Ooh, that feels good to me. Ooh, that over there. Oh, look at how cute that is. And if you fill the center of your focus with that, Abraham uses one of her processes as a book of positive aspects, where you literally walk around with a notebook, taking conscious note and writing it down. Ooh, I like this. I love that. As you start getting yourself used to pointing that way and leaning that way and flowing that way. What you're doing when you do that is you are saying, that's me, and it makes me feel good. That's me. That's me. That's in phase with me. That's in phase with me. That's in phase with me. Because the indication that it is in phase with you is, as you focus there, you get a little energy bump. You're like, ooh, I like that. Ooh, I love that. As you see that cute little furry face with its sparkling eyes and its twitching whiskers, or this hawk soaring above you, or the wind, the breeze tinkling through the wind chimes, or the smell of that fresh baked apple pie, or the feeling of Sunday afternoon and home churned ice cream. Do I sound 100? Yes, I am 100 years old. Or whatever it is for you, it's the feeling. And so the exercise is just to walk through life identifying with the things that are you. Now, that sounds crazy because that's not exactly what you're doing, but that is what you're doing. And the better at it that you get, the more you connect all yourselves together, and all of your love comes together under one thing, and you become a whole self. And I have a theory about us individually and collectively, that you can become a whole self with the whole thing individually. And as we all do that, we really build a society that runs at a much higher frequency than the one that we're running right now. It's crazy, the modes of competitive, weird, conditional. It's because we don't know who we are. I had a fight with somebody yesterday because for a minute we didn't know who we were. And I have pondered it quite a lot since then, and owned my part of it, and I'm using it to try to understand my world. Who are we? Get myself turned back to my forward position so that I don't create these negative energy fields. Now, I wouldn't waste any time being afraid of these negative energy fields, but I believe that they are literally created when we literally get backwards to our pure positive actual natural source energy self. We are all extensions of source energy, and source energy is pure positive. I mean, there's a negative, I'm an air quote negative, but there isn't. There only is what is. What is not doesn't exist. And I know that that sounds simplistic, but it's actually really, really profound, considering that most of the time, our negative self is literally created by pondering concepts that don't exist. Things like, if I wanted to ruminate on all of the degrees that I did not earn, or all of the relationships that I don't have, all of the mansions that I am not living in at this time, all of the sports cars that I don't own, all of the money that is not in my bank, all of the people who have not done the things that I wish that they had done, If anytime you start pondering, focusing on the is not, comparing it against an ideal thing that you got in your own mind, and this is what it should be. And now I'm comparing what it is to this thing that it should be, and I find that it is not what it should be. All of a sudden, you find yourself pondering the is not. And source energy spends no time at all, ever, looking at the is not. Or the was, because there's no reason to look at the was, because the is contains all the information of the was. It all came forward with us. It's all of the frequencies are right here. There's nothing is lost, and it's all in the tiniest grain of everything. All of the information is there. And I am connected to it, and my inner being is not concerned about any of these things, and I should take her lead. Now, I should also be realistic to some point. But if you get in really good phase with your inner being, you don't have to spend time manning your force fields in order to keep yourself safe. You just follow her impulses. She knows where the bad guys are. If they're down to the left, the left-hand turn in the street, she will attract your attention to the right. Unless, for some reason, one of those bad guys to the left is actually a seeker who is right at the verge of being ready to learn something. And if you would but stay in your alignment during the whole thing as it goes down, if you turn to the left and run into those air quote bad guys, all of a sudden maybe there might be this teaching moment that happens where all of a sudden everybody's lives are transformed. But you don't look for that with your physical brain. You have to just trust your inner heart to know the bigger picture of what's going on. And trust her that it's okay. It's okay. You mean well. And maybe if you are accidentally hurting people around you that you don't mean to hurt, that you actually only love dearly, there might be things that could be adjusted, but no. So interesting. Who am I? Who the F am I? And what is this life experience crap? It can be tricky sometimes, can't it? But I think we need to understand these things. Who am I, and how does it work? When you find yourself in a state of negative emotion, don't act. Don't act from that standpoint, because you're getting wrong impulses. You're getting reverse impulses. You're getting distorted impulses. Like unto a funhouse mirror kind of thing. Now the spin is distorted. They aren't in alignment. They aren't spinning together. They are, at cross purposes to one another. And it doesn't feel right. And that's why it doesn't feel right, because literally you are two spins. The one spin that you have control over is yourself, and how you are spinning your life, how you are tending to your particular point of attraction. It's the most important thing that you possess. Your point of attraction, your ability to summon to yourself the help that you need when you need it. And what causes this, where this comes from, where this impulse comes from, it comes from love. We run to people's aid because we love them, because we feel like they need things. No, that's not. I take that back. It's not because we feel like they need things, but it's because we are attracted that direction. So, if I have a powerful purpose, like a vision for a restaurant, for instance, and I have really thought this through, and it's a win-win proposition for all of the people involved. Maybe it even involves stock sharing and or part of a group ownership. So you have everyone has an actual stake in it, and there's forums where people meet and share their ideas and whatever. You have this wonderful idea that well, the whole point of that is that would be the kind of thing that you would get all kinds of cooperative components. Everybody would jump on that and go, yes, I benefit from that. You benefit from that. Look at how it's going to work. We're going to all make money and whatever. The universe works like that. We all have to move in the direction of what we want to move in, that where our heart is pulling us that direction. It can't just be where our thinking brain tells us to go. We have to be working this you have to know that you are a binary self. You are a two-mind system. And when your two minds are in harmony with one another, everything goes well. And when they aren't, nothing goes well. It just works as simple as that. Is it as simple as that? I don't know. I'm sort of, I've had a mixed and scattered day because I have my own emotional life. I'm a real person. And I have just absorbed all of these different teachings into a kind of consciousness system within myself where they are all added together. And I know that somewhere in all of this information lies my answers. The number one thing being stay in alignment with your inner being. Now, what you want to do is empathize. You want to empathize, but the empathy is actually it's an exercise in practicing the same lower frequency as the person that you're feeling sorry for is practicing. And if you do that, then now both of you are out of phase and there's nobody to help find the way back to source. Now, it seems heartless. How is it that in order for me to help you out of your unhappiness, I can't be unhappy about your unhappiness? But there is a part of me that does not want your unhappiness. Because then that part of me recognizes that you are me, I am you. We are not separate from one another. And so, if you're having an issue with somebody really close, that would be one of the reasons why. Because at a very fundamental level, you are not separate from this person, and they're not getting it, and they're not happy, and you're not going to be fully happy until we are all happy. That is, unfortunately, a part of us, because we have within our brains something called mirror neurons. I think this is what's causing it. The mirror neurons within us cause us to react within our brains when we observe something just as though it happened to us. But we've just observed it happening, but the neuron fires in our brain just as though it happened to us. That's how come when you see somebody who gets hit in the nuts, you double over. You're like, oh, because part of you feels that. The emotional part of you feels that. The actual pain receptors, fortunately, are not engaged. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to torture anybody, would you? But you wouldn't be able to stand anything because everybody's pain would be causing you pain. So you can't really do it that way. But in the mind, that mirror neuron goes off, and so it's why we can't stay out of each other's business. It's why, and we can't really expect each other to stay out of each other's business either. We're not designed that way. We are a larger field, and we are all spinning together. We are all extensions of source energy. As source energy, we are all one being playing together. That is the truth. So what are we going to do with that? I say, let's build a smarter world. Let's build a world that just naturally knows these things, that knows that the transportation system needs to be good for everybody. Communication needs to be clear and unencumbered for everyone. Data flow and transmission needs to be uninhibited and unencumbered. A clear, free, clean internet. Actually, I usually do not speak to any kinds of physical anything. I don't say, this physical thing should be done. I believe it's for everybody's point on the grid to call. But we need to do our collective systems recognizing that we are a superorganism, that each one of us individually is an autonomous individual, important, divinely special cell in the greater whole. And every cell matters. And well, I've sort of wound myself into a corner. I don't know exactly what I'm talking about today. I do espouse free, clean energy for everybody. It's possible. It is possible. And how we make it a reality is that we meditate upon this fact, that it is possible. That when you study the nature of the quantum field, the nature of the divine matrix, the nature of this thing that this energy equation that the universe is, you recognize we can pull energy out of this, go in phase with it, and it pours energy and matter out. Go out of phase, and it turns into empty space. It just goes blank. It zeroes out to the random function. And when we understand the implications of this structure, then we will have our true 21st century will begin. And I'm going to leave it with that, even though I'm not quite at an hour. I'm going to pause and go see whether I kept my audience the whole time. If she had to go, hopefully she will say goodbye. Let's see, how long did 48 minutes? Okay. Excellent. Are you still there, Indigo? I'm just getting ready to sign off. I'm just wondering. It doesn't matter. Maybe you had to end. All right. Well, so I guess I will wind this up, because I usually have my show be more or less than an hour, and here I am right about an hour. And so I'm going to hang up. And until tomorrow, maybe I'll be a little bit more... I may not post this over on videos. I don't know what I'm going to do. In any case, until tomorrow, when perhaps I will be back, and perhaps I will be a little more pulled together. It's always just an exercise in me figuring out my own life. Who am I is really what this show is. And so until tomorrow, when I might publicly come out and do it again. Until then, stay cool, baby, and may the source be with you.